Rob Tebbutt here for Boxing News with Sugar Hill in sunny Bournemouth ahead of Lawrence Okolie versus Chris Billam-Smith. I mean, there's worse places to do an interview, Sugar, I'll say that much.
And there's also betters, and this is one of the betters right here.
It certainly is. Now, before we get started, I'd just like to preface this with thank you very much to your agent, your confidant, your brother, Andy Purwell.
There he is. That's right.
Who very graciously gave me permission to speak to you today. Somebody that you, of course, know very well. So I'd just like to start that by thanking Andy for his generosity.
Well, I'm glad you got the okay from Andy, my media agent.
All future media inquiries, if you can go via andy@idsportsmedia.com, we'll see if we can help you out. But anyway, now that's out of the way, how are you, Sugar? Been a little while since I've seen you.
I'm doing great. How are you? The last time I seen you, we were in Dubai.
No, we weren't.
Where were we?
We were in Saudi Arabia.
There you go.
You
growed them that quick.
In the hottest room, by the way, in the whole of Saudi Arabia, because people like me, very, very sweaty, just going up the stairs. And I walked in there, and it was like walking into what I'd imagine, going back to the Kronk days were, going into a boiling hot room, because you had all the windows shut and all the radiators turned up.
That's why I like it. I got to keep myself fit in order to keep training these fighters. I can't let them get too far ahead of me, and then they're going to think they got one up on me. I'm always going to have that one up, that two up, maybe even seven up on them.
Well, thankfully, it's a little bit airier out here for me. Seven up. I got it. There's a bit of the 7-Up product placement in there as well. But how are you? We're here for Lawrence Okolie versus Chris Billam-Smith. Of course, a fight between two ex-stablemates. Yeah, talk to me about the fight, Sugar. I'm very excited. I'm very intrigued by it, mainly by the intangibles outside the ring.
I think it's a great fight. I think both fighters are going to fight. They know each other too well, so it's not like they have to or need a filling out period on who's going to do what. They both know their strengths and their weaknesses with each other. It's just about making those adjustments and improving and doing some newer things that I'm sure both fighters have learned to be able to do those things and be successful with them. So this is a big fight for Chris and a big fight for Lawrence, being stablemates, and I'm sure having those dreams of I'm sure they probably thought of it like, man, what if we have to fight each other one day? You know, they're both in the same division. Whether they speak about it or not, but I'm sure it's something that crossed their minds, like maybe one day. But now the day has come. It's Saturday, and I know both of them have been training very hard, and I'm saying that not to say like, oh, we want to fight each other, but it's just one of those things that happen. They're both in the same division. They're both at the top where they both so rightfully want to be and where they are. And it's time for those two to meet and to have an exciting fight on Saturday.
We're obviously 8 weeks or so removed from the David Light fight for Lawrence Okolie. How important is it, and how pleased are you to get him back in the ring so quickly? After a period in his career, by his own admission, he's not been as busy as he would have liked to have been. I'm sure from your perspective as a trainer, this is the best case for him moving forward. I'm
just happy with moving forward from where we left off in the last fight with David Light. As I was stated earlier, I gave him a 7 in his performance, and I'm sure everybody doesn't agree with me, but they might agree more with Lawrence as a 4 he given himself. But my 7 is a different thought and a different look on it than everybody else's. And this is primarily because he's done the things that we worked on. He's done everything we worked on, just didn't do it consistently enough. So that's what I'm happy about, actually getting right into the gym, not losing much time and getting right back to what we were working on. And I can clearly remember after the fight, Lawrence in the locker room, he was like, Shook, I see what you're talking about now. So now he understands it even more from having that experience. So that's why an experience is always a great teacher.
Absolutely, and you can have the experience in the gym, but obviously under the lights, small gloves, world title fight, I'm sure you learn more about those 12 threes than you do for the 8 weeks or so that you had in camp before then.
I learn a lot each day. So I actually, I believe I'm learning more of being in training camp with him than in the fight. Like I said, I've seen him do the things in training camp, doing everything, and obviously doing them more in training camp than in the fight sometimes at some point. But we've been working together a lot more, and I've had a lot more time together, and just watching him be more consistent, I'm very, very happy and confident of Lawrence Okolie going out there Saturday and getting what he so rightfully wants as a knockout.
What was it about Lawrence that kind of attracted you to working with him, and what skills? I mean, obviously, without kind of delving, I'm not sure it actually matters when you're going against somebody who trained him for a couple of years anyway. But what was it about Lawrence as a fighter that kind of enticed you into working with him?
Actually, it was Ben Whittaker and Tyson Fury. They told me he was a good fighter, a good person. Like so, from those two, this is before I even talked to Lawrence. I was like, I've got to take those two guys' words for it because I trust what they say as well as they trust me. So that's the bond that we have. And yeah, everything's from that point has been okay. I actually talked to Lawrence after conversations with Ben and with Tyson. And we talked, and then I said, oh, I guess I better watch this fight. And then I went to watch this fight. But I had already said yes to him that I would work with him. It was just now it was time for me to watch him. Watch this fight and to see, what I'm gonna be working with. Didn't really want to do it beforehand because it's like I'm gonna watch him and then let's say we don't work together. So it's like not trying to stress myself out. I took that time from watching his fights before we talked. I took that time to watch some golf so I can better my skills in golf out there on the green grasses and in the sands and on the driving range.
What's your handicap?
We don't have to discuss that. Just put the money up.
Just on Lawrence, I'm always quite fascinated to speak to trainers when they take a fighter at a certain stage of their career. And while Lawrence is, having said that, while Lawrence is a world champion, he didn't have a hugely long amateur career. He did a lot as an amateur in a short space of time, and the same as a professional. But taking him at this stage of his career, I'm fascinated by coaches' approaches to working with fighters who are somewhat established. Do you look to just refine? Do you look to kind of impose your philosophy as kind of like a vogue term of recent years on the fighter, or do you just kind of take it case by case?
I like to keep my secret under the rug. I'm not gonna say too much about it, but you know what? My focal point is actually just the basics, fundamentals of boxing, and that's what I've been instilled in teaching from Emanuel, and that's what I will continue to do. He's had so much success with that. Why would I try to do something different to make myself have some kind of other identity than what I have? My identity is with Kronk. It's with Emanuel's teaching and that long history and tradition of champions and good fighters, exciting fighters, and knockouts. And that's what I tend to do is just keep doing it that way. It's all I know since I can remember, maybe 3 years old, going to fights and just being around those guys and when they were amateurs before they turned professional and just watching them win, watching the hands being raised with those fighters wearing the gold and red, and blue. That's all I remember. And then you can feel the tension when you walk in the room at that age. Like everybody's talking about the Kronk team, and it's like, like wondering, like, dang, what weight is he? I hope he ain't in my weight. Did he move up in weight, or is he the same weight still? Not really actually trying to avoid them, but just some sense of worry that they may have to fight one of the Kronk fighters. And then you had those guys that wanted it. They wanted to fight with somebody that from Kronk, like because they were just, they were just as well good fighters and wanted what they call now all the smoke. They wanted some of that smoke. They wanted to test themselves with the best or who was claiming to be the best. So yeah, that's my style, and I'm gonna keep doing it forever and ever.
That's kind of where I was going with it. I think looking from the outside, you look at Lawrence Okolie, big, long range, big puncher, particularly with the right hand. When I heard, at least, that it was yourself and Lawrence Okolie had come together, I kind of thought, yeah, Kronk, it kind of fits. Is that fair to say?
I would. I mean, just from history, I guess, and just putting it together like that, you can say yes. But really, I mean, I train any fighter. It doesn't matter because he's tall and long. I've trained also fighters that aren't so tall and long. So it's still for me the same thing. It's just if I have a tall fighter, then yeah, it's like basketball. You got a tall basketball player. You're not gonna have him out there shooting the three. You're gonna put him up under the basket. And if you got somebody out there that can dribble the ball, then you put him as a guard. Just different situations for different people. Their strengths, they're going to contribute to something in boxing, period, as it is in basketball and any other sport. You just have to work around their abilities and then their size and speed and things like that to be able to put them and give them things that are going to make them enhance themselves and become better.
One of the things you spoke about here is knockouts, and it's something that we've heard you speak about in the past a lot.
Oh yeah,
love the knockouts at the Kronk gym. Lawrence Okolie's punching power, where does his punching power measure against? I mean, he's, in my opinion, he's a heavyweight in a cruiserweight's body. Certainly on the scales, he's a cruiserweight. But to me, he's somebody who we could expect to see at heavyweight sometime in the future. How would you rate his punching power and compared to some of the other fighters that you'd work with?
Well, you know what? I've only worked with him for the one fight, but he's got he's got more power actually when he's not trying. When he does try, it really ain't that hard. So the object is just to keep him loose and to keep him just keep him loose and free, and he's gonna punch harder than ever. A lot of times it's the punches that you don't see, and those are the ones that catch you and hurt you. So he's physically strong though, but it's just when he tries to throw the hard punches, they don't come off as hard as he thought they were going to be. And I feel that on the mitts. And that's partially why I do give pad work, because I want to make sure that the punches of the fighters I'm able to feel them as if I was the opponent. So if I'm feeling it really hard through the mitts, then I know that it's really hard on somebody else.
Are you a big fan in general of mitt work, pad work? We've kind of seen a more new age of these fancy pad combinations that we see on Instagram and things like that. Where are you with kind of the how does it fit into your training camp?
My fancy is a 1-2 bang, get it over with. So I just feel like if you're throwing all those punches, you probably ain't punching that hard, honestly. So I'm a fan of just getting straight to the point, bang and get it over with. My pad work is for teaching. It's not just for show. It's not for the glamour. It's not for the warm up. You can shadow box and do that, and go hit the bag and do that. But it's basically teaching technique and trying to correct some things to give that person more punching power or a better technique, things like that. I don't do pad work every day. I don't think it's necessary. And I know some fighters they've gotten to this thing where they feel like a good day of training is with pad work. Well, in the old days they didn't do pad work, and those were some damn good fighters. They just taught. It's just a way of teaching. So in the old days they used their hands, and now they use hand mitts, and they just make it a bit more extra sometimes, and that's okay. I don't care. So if somebody's making it extra with pop 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 pop, and I'm over here with pop pop bang, pop pop bang, it just reminds me of a scene like in Harlem Nights where everybody's shooting these machine guns, and then you got one guy just going pop. But being accurate with that shot, so it's just, you can throw a lot of punches, doesn't mean you're going to hit that person, and you can throw a lot of punches, doesn't mean you're going to hurt that person and get more points. Sometimes that one punch can win that round over all those other punches. Just got to know how to deliver it, and that's what I work on.
I'd like to speak to you about Chris Billam-Smith. You were very respectful, shared some quite respectful words today at the press conference. Of course, you were here.
I don't think I was respectful.
I thought you were. Honest, but honest and respectful. It was nice to see. I mean,
I don't know what else to be. I got nothing against Chris. I'm telling everybody, last time I was here, I was sitting first row where he was fighting Chamberlain, and I was a big fan. I mean, I was a fan of the fight. He won. It was a tough fight. He gritted it out. That's the kind of person he is. I don't know how to just go in there and start lying and let me try it now. Oh yeah, Chris is gonna get it. Like, it doesn't even sound right. It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I was a fan since then. I watched this fight since that fight. So yeah, and even more was exciting was the fans as well. Like, to be a part of it and for them to see their hometown. Somebody, hometown. That means a lot. I know how you guys are over here about the soccer and the soccer or the football. Each neighborhood got a different team. There's a little stadium somewhere, and yeah, it's serious. So this is about as serious as it gets too on boxing.
Certainly is. And kind of where I was going with that was, obviously I knew that you'd said that at the press conference about being ringside for the Isaac Chamberlain fight and watching Chris's fights after.
And I wasn't working with anybody. I was there with Ben Whittaker. I hadn't talked to Lawrence or anything like that, so I had no intentions of I wasn't even watching like, one day I'll be having somebody fighting against Chris. I was just there as a fan, period. So nothing has changed since then.
How would you assess him as a fighter?
A tough, gritty fighter. I feel like he can do all. He can do it all. He's had a good amateur career, and he's been training, since amateur to get to the point where he's at, making improvements. And I've seen improvements from his amateur fight to up until now. So yeah, he's one of those fighters that has it all. He's tough, and come on, he's fighting in his hometown. He's going to give it everything he's got, like he's been doing it, and that means it's going to be rough.
How important is it for Lawrence Okolie to, you mentioned football there, like play the game and not the occasion, to fight his fight for 12 threes or less, I'm sure, in your estimation, and not be overawed by the occasion, overawed by going into the back, not try extra hard, as you mentioned earlier, to knock him out and just try and relax in there?
Well, I just feel like he just has to go in there and have fun. Go in there, have fun, control the situation or situations. Obviously, you're not playing to the crowd because they're not fighting, so that doesn't mean anything when you're in that ring. The same, it doesn't mean anything to me when I'm working the corner and walking out. I don't hear anything. I know it's there, but I'm not really in tune for it. I'm really focused on the fight, and that's the same way Lawrence will be. I don't think the crowd's going to bother him much at all. It's him and it's Chris in there. It's not even the bother of Shane being in the other corner. For him, it's Chris, and it's Lawrence, and that's it.
Just want to touch on a few little bits and pieces away from the fight. First of all, I kind of mentioned to you before we started filming, so a little bit of Kronk stuff. Always fascinating. Whenever I speak to you, I've had the pleasure to speak to yourself or Andy Lee, to go back through memory lane a little bit and speak a little bit about the Kronk. You mentioned earlier about kind of being 3 years old and being surrounded by fighters, and obviously your uncle Emanuel. What are your early memories, your earliest memories as a child of kind of being a part of the Kronk?
Winning. Winning. That's it. That's what I remember. That's my earliest memories, is winning. Going to the gym, going out of town, riding in the car with the fighters. I'm a little fella, so I'm squinched in. Me obviously punching on people's hands or punching their legs, thinking I was doing something. They would tell me, "Oh man, you're good." I'm like, of course, I'm a kid. I believe it. Believe whatever they're telling me. They're big fellas to me. And just watching those guys win. That's all I remember is winning.
Who were your favourite fighters to watch from the early days of Kronk, when you were your early days with Kronk?
All of them. I mean, Thomas Hearns, of course, Milton McCory, Jimmy Paul, the whole stable. Them was like my big brothers, so it wasn't like I had any favorites. I wanted all of them to win. They all had their own little style and things that they did better than the other one. Just wanted them all to win.
Where do you see yourself in your training career now? Do you see yourself training fighters for the next 20 years? Do you think you'll always be in boxing? Of course, you've not. You were a police officer and you had other interests, other occupations in your life. Do you think you'll kind of stay in boxing and look to grow and expand your stable as and when?
Don't know. We'll see what happens in my golf life.
We try to get you a game of golf with Canelo. Canelo's apparently he's trying
to
go on the PGA Tour.
Okay, put me in the tour.
He's got quite a bit of money as well, Canelo. You could hustle him good.
I ain't trying to hustle. I'm just trying to win. I ain't got the hustle.
Ben Whittaker. We spoke about Ben Whittaker early on. How is he? Of course, recently returned to the ring with a typical Ben Whittaker display of flash.
He just fought when? What, about 3 weeks ago?
3 weeks ago, yeah. I think it was around 3 weeks
ago. The crazy man is back in the gym, just running and doing all kind of stuff, training, sparring, he's doing all that stuff. He ain't stopped yet. He's been out for almost a year. A good 8 months or so, he's right back in the gym. He's a lunatic.
It's good to hear, because you mentioned there about the fact that he's been injured. He had the shoulder problem, of course, after Saudi Arabia, which is where I last saw you, not Dubai. But it must be great to have him back in the gym. Double check. Must be great to have him back in the gym and try and get that activity. Because, whether people like it or not, he's a great entertainer and he's great for the sport.
Yeah, I believe it's good for him to be back in the gym, and he's enjoyed that time. He was also in camp. We were all in camp together. Lawrence Okolie, Ben Whittaker. They sparred quite a few rounds together and learned from each other. And my vivid memory is Lawrence Okolie sitting at ringside at Ben Whittaker's fight, and after Ben Whittaker got the knockout, you know what Lawrence was doing? He's over there shadow boxing. Right after the fight, he's like, I can't wait for my turn. Those guys have been working together, helping each other. Everybody in the gym has been helping each other and wanting everyone to have success. So I think Ben Whittaker set the tempo for everybody that's been training along in that camp, and now it's Lawrence's turn. And, of course, he wants to outdo Ben. It's supposed to be that way. And that's how everything just keeps on rising.
Are we going to see a Naseem Hamed-inspired ring walk from Lawrence Okolie this weekend?
I didn't even know Ben Whittaker was doing that until I saw it, and I was like, oh, that was cool. I mean, I have relationships with Naseem Hamed as well, from Emanuel training him. And, Prince Naseem being in Detroit at Kronk, and, us having some few times together. So, it's kind of more, it was kind of fitting. It kind of brought back some old memories.
What are your memories of Naseem?
Me beating him in pool. No, then he came back, he beat me, so we never got a chance to finish the other one. We were going to play a third game to break it all, and Emanuel, come on, Naseem, we got to go. Emanuel must have want me to give it to him.
What about him in the gym as opposed to the pool table?
I wasn't in the gym particularly. I was working. I had a job as a police officer then, so they trained earlier. And when I came into the gym with my amateurs, it was after the pros were gone. So didn't see much of him. Just only heard those things. That's about it.
You still work with amateurs, don't you? I mean, one of the I spoke to Lawrence this morning.
I was just at Newham. Worked with a whole load of kids over there. Oh, it felt so good. They were all over me. Just like when I first started, they were all over me, just full of questions, bright-eyed, and then you show them something, they go run and try. They go try like they won't stop, non-stop. I go tell Lawrence something or Ben something like that. They ain't like those kids. They go, oh, okay, I get it. But the kid goes, and they go over there try like, look, you see me doing it? Am I doing it? Come back the next day doing it over and over again. That's more of a delight, than working with the professionals. And it's just being able to help, just seeing the look on those kids' faces when they learn something. Because I can remember when I was a kid learning something and how much energy and effort I put into it, probably bugging the shit out of my mother. And it's like, oh, watch this. Look, and she probably like, as a parent, you got to be like, oh, okay, I see it. Show some interest. And probably you ain't really interested in it, but right, you got to show it. So, yeah, how many people I bugged the mess out of watching me hit the baseball, watching me box. I remember boxing in the basement. In the basement, then they had the light switch with a string hanging down. They had a little tin cup at the end of it. And I was boxing that a lot. So I thought I was doing something. But, hey, if you don't have an imagination, then where am I at now?
Well, you certainly have an imagination. That comes from Emanuel, which obviously a lot of things will do, being as close to him as you were. But I mean, Andy Lee again, what kind of told me about, he would be at fights with him, go to HBO the next morning. Emanuel straight back in the gym. He's working with the amateurs in the morning. It's really part of the essence of Kronk. It's not just professional.
I think
boxing.
Emanuel got that from me. Oh no, wait, he's older. No, I got that from him then. Yeah, but that's all I saw him do. So I was gonna do nothing less than what he was doing. If he's doing that and having success with it, I'm not gonna sit there and not go to the gym. If I did that, I would hear it from him, but I didn't want to hear it from him. I wanted to make him proud, so I wanted him to notice me and say, "Wow, he's doing good." So, yeah, I've always gave my best effort, around him, just to prove something. That's the men. That's how us men are. We want to compete with with the older men who's teaching us, and I know Emanuel didn't have a problem with me. Competing against him. We used to play pool a lot. Then all of a sudden we stopped playing. I wonder why that was, So, yeah, I mean, it's the same way with my nephews. Like, I used to bowl with my nephew, and now I don't bowl with him anymore. I said, I know when enough is enough. You're not going to just whip on me. You can beat me now, but I'm not going to just let you keep whipping on me. That's a whole other story.
That was one of the things that we spoke about the last time we were in Bournemouth. We did the fantasy fights, if you remember, and it was a very Kronk-themed fantasy fights. And one of the things that you'd said then was, one of the things that you would have loved to have done was have a fighter against Emanuel and go head-to-head with Emanuel.
Yeah, just to see how I fare, I just wanted to know that what I learned from him, was good. Like, now, if I had a fighter going against his fighter and we had a big championship fight, something big like that, I think it would have been something good. Like, it would have just been good. It would have been like the teacher and the student. And let's see what happens, So,
what would have been the fight? What would have been?
I don't
what's
know.
What's the fantasy fight?
I don't have a fantasy fight. It just would have been whoever. I don't think Emanuel would have cared about who it was either. I know he was very confident in his skills and ability, just as I've grown. So it's like, it doesn't matter. Give us whoever you want to give us.
Okay, right, before I let you go, wouldn't be proper not to ask about the lineal heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury. Saw him in Australia, and he's here, he's there, he's everywhere. What can you tell us, Shug? What's the latest with the big man?
I can tell you that he was in Australia because I saw photos of him in Australia, and I probably had fifth time somebody's asked me about it today, about him being in Australia. So I definitely know he was in Australia, and I definitely know that there was some kind of talks about him fighting somebody. I don't know the name of the person or anything like that, or who, when, or where. I just heard those things. I don't think about it too much. Excuse me. You can tell me right now, and I'll just forget about it. Just like that, I'll forget about it. Not intentionally. It's just I could be thinking about some golf, man. Like stretching my arms and my shoulders so I can get a full back and keep my core tight so I can follow through on the perfect plane still. I'm just that kind of guy. Yeah.
Similar to kind of the opposite of what we were talking about with Lawrence Okolie, in the sense of, getting him straight back in the ring, and Ben Whittaker, getting him in the gym. Obviously Tyson at different stages of his career, certainly to Ben Whittaker. But ideally, would you like to see him a little bit more busy than he's potentially been, certainly this year so far?
I like all fighters to be busy, so it's not just him. So when I say it, I'm answering for everybody. I like all the fighters to be busy, and I'm sure that the fighters want to be busy as well. They want to go out there and perform. That's what they do. They're entertainers. At the end of the day, they don't actually know that they're entertainers, but they are entertainers.
Do you have any idea as to when you could potentially see him back in the ring again, or when we could potentially see Tyson box?
Probably if you ask me another Tyson Fury question, Tyson's going to try to jump out of somewhere and start knocking you up a bit.
Well, we don't want that, so I think we'll probably bring it to an end. Sugar, always a pleasure catching up with you. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing News. Best of luck ahead of this weekend with Lawrence Okolie versus Chris Billam-Smith.
All right, thank you very much.
We'll catch up with you next time. But by the way, before we finish up, that's a nice hat. Where do we get those hats from, Sugar?
Oh, you know what? These hats are exclusive. You can get these nowhere. It's only for me. I don't know what else to say about that. But I think in the near future, some things are going to be happening with some different products, because everybody's been asking about this hat and certain things that I wear. So at some point, I do want to give the people what they want, and I think it's nice stuff. So they must think the same thing, and soon to get it out there. That's not my department. My department is training, so I have some other people that's handling that situation, and I think it's things that's been like, I guess most of the stuff I guess you see me wear is probably like prototype stuff. Just going through trying to see what materials and the letterings and different things like that, stitching, just trying out different things, and until we get it together. I'm in no rush for it, so it's just something I guess that should happen, and I don't mind being a part of it, and I don't mind people wearing the stuff like that. I feel it's nice, so why not somebody else wear it as well?
We look forward to seeing it. Do you think I'll look good kitted out in Kronk?
Yeah, like Kronk, Sugar, all that stuff. I wear other people's stuff too, so I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's whatever looks good, I want to wear it. So I don't only wear my stuff, but I wear other people's stuff, other team stuff. CBS says he's giving me a shirt. You heard that, right?
I did.
So I'm expecting to be wearing his shirt as well. He said it, not me. I want it now.
It's
He's got some nice colors too. It's like gold. I saw a kid on the pier with one on. It was a black shirt with gold and red CBS on it. I'm like, give me that shirt, kid. Go get. I said, Chris. He says, yeah. I said, give me that shirt right there. It's probably the same size as I wear, and you go get another one from Chris then, since you know him.
Okay, Sugar. Always a pleasure. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing News. We'll catch up soon.
Thank you once again. Bosh.